With this review of the Steven Universe comic Clockwork, or else the first story in it is called Clockwork, but you guys understand how these work at this point, we come to the end of this particular series of Steven Universe comics. And I'm going to talk about the series overall at the end of this review a little bit, but I actually liked this one quite a bit. I know I've typically had mixed, at best, things to say about these comics, but this one I found to be pretty fun. There were a couple things in it that bugged me in this raises questions that a semi-canon comic probably shouldn't have raised kind of way. Like the gem that they're facing off against in this one. It's implied that its body is a giant clock tower, kind of the same way that the pillow is the Desert Glass's body, because its purpose is literally just to be a clock tower and keep time within the clock tower. But that somehow means that if it stops keeping time within the clock tower stops. Which, one, is physically impossible, regardless of what hand-waving the gems do about it. And two, like, you wouldn't be able to move through that area if time was stopped there. Also, and we've talked about this in the main series too, giving gems, whether homeworld gems or the crystal gems, time manipulation powers is stupid and should be best forgotten about. Because it raises questions about how things could have possibly happened in the way that they happened without this stuff being used that the show, and these comics especially, are not prepared to answer. The solution is also to just reset the gem, not to like find some way to free it, but if its body really is the clock tower, that's really not an option. So I guess, resetting it, getting it back to doing what it does as comfortably as possible is probably their best option, right? And in the end, it does end with Steven being respectful to it, so it resets itself for them rather than them having to force it to keep doing its job, which is a very Steven-y way of ending things off. And I really liked that they do the whole Steven has a new thing that he's talking about throughout the entire story, like they did in a lot of early episodes, like with the cheeseburger backpack. For example, here it's a thematically appropriate Fitbit-esque smartwatch. Also, the roles of the gems in this particular mission made a lot of sense. You even see Amethyst using her shapeshifting powers to turn into a big spider to climb the clock tower more easily, and even uses some of the spider's abilities as they progress through the story. And one of the things I have constantly complimented these comics for, alliteration attack, is that they allow Amethyst to use her shapeshifting way more often than the show ever did, especially towards the end. So while this does have some of the weirdness that came about in the show because of early installment weirdness baked into it, I still think that this story was pretty fun and reminded me of those older episodes in a way that was nostalgic and made it a positive experience. Like, there's nothing more to the story than that. It's no deeper than that. Like, Pearl kind of a little bit implies that a gem doing its normal purpose is a good thing, but like, that's a thing I could buy her still buying into at certain parts of her character arc, so that's even, I think, okay. And the mini comics in this one were pretty fun too. One's just an art piece, but it's a very beautiful art piece. Another one is a comic where Steven wants to spend more time with Opal, which I can relate. And then the last one was another one about Amethyst's shapeshifting. It's her shapeshifting into a bunch of different dog breeds so they can win a bunch of dog shows, which was very cute. Like, I don't think this is the strongest comic out of this series, but it's definitely one of the stronger ones, and a decent place to end this series off on. Like, overall, I don't think this series was great or anything. I think it would have been a lot stronger had they tried to explore themes and ideas presented in the show more, rather than creating their own gems like this weird timekeeper gem that don't really gel well and probably shouldn't be introduced to the lore in the first place because of the questions that it raises. But at the end of the day, while I didn't like some of these really much at all, I don't think there are any that are like truly objectively awful or anything, and some of them are quite good. And they do things that the show itself was never really able to. So if what you're looking for is just some quick, digestible Steven Universe I'll say Steven Universe-esque content, because it doesn't always feel quite like the show, but it's, pretty freaking close. I think these comics are a good place to go for that. Just be wary that if you're really worried about the lore, some of this stuff might annoy you. Like, in summation, let's sum it all up. This comic, good. Not amazing, but good. And the series overall was fine. I don't know when I'll ever want to revisit it, but I imagine I will at some point. That's really all I have to say about this one, though. There are more Steven Universe comics to talk about, and I will be going through all of those and reviewing them as well, so there's definitely more to look forward to. So in the meantime, as per usual, I'd like to know, what do you guys think of the Steven Universe comic Clockwork, if you have read it? Let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to my various social medias, as well as to the many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.